represented by two separate yet unequal groups. The globalists. Gang, what's up? Aaron, Kennedy, and Loney. We have one of the best shows coming up right now. I cut up all the committee meetings, all the things that take place on the House of Commons floor after and before the next question period. That's our pre-show. Like, share, subscribe. It's a really great time. Come check this out. You'll learn something about Canadian federal politics. Most people don't dive into the frontline politics the way we do here, but we embrace it. We are looking to explain how all this nonsense is taking place. Let's take a look. We're going to learn something right here. Let's go.
Speaker, we will take no lessons from these conservatives, Mr. Speaker. Canadians have heard the leader of the opposition.
WTF.
Hear, hear.
In Canadian federal politics, the Canucks are represented by two separate yet unequal groups. The globalists who sold out and the opposition trying to salvage a country. These are their stories.
Yes, and then we'll go to Mr. Jakes, Mrs. Block, and then Ms. Khalid.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if this is a point of order, but I would certainly like to register my concern with the fact that witnesses have been called to appear before committee, have agreed to come to committee, and then either don't comply with the motion that's been put forward, which I believe was the case with both Mr. Guzman and Mr. Pierre. We had asked for them to appear separately. They decided to determine the terms under which they would come to committee, and now at the last minute are not appearing. And the fact that we have a member of parliament who's serving as a minister of state refusing to come unless he's coming with another witness. Can you please let us as a committee know what recourse we have for this? This is becoming a pattern of behavior with some of the ministers. As you've mentioned, now Minister Lightbound is refusing to attend committee to defend the estimates that have been put forward. And this is very concerning to this side of the table for sure, that we have a planned agenda and we can't actually go about doing the work that we as parliamentarians need to because of the refusal of witnesses to appear.
Certainly, and I give credit to our clerk. He's been doing yeoman's work trying to arrange to have them show, repeated requests to have them appear. Mr. Guzman, I understand, is sick today, which does happen, but Mr. Pierre not coming today despite the motion. I have no explanation, but it is, as Chair, I am disappointed that we cannot get ministers here either to defend their estimates, despite great flexibility offered long in advance, and the same with Mr. Pierre. Mr. Guzman, I'm going to assume will show up. We can extend an invite, and of course, if he refuses, we can go to a summons, but I'm going to assume he will show up. As for Secretary Pierre, it's the will of the committee of how they attend, but I'm a bit taken back that he won't show up unless they are together. They've made it very clear in writings to us that they won't appear unless they can appear together for 1 hour only. And I'm not sure why, but that's kind of where we're at right now.
Really briefly, with a follow-up to that, I would encourage you as the chair to reissue that invitation to recall both of them to appear as per the motion that was passed by this entire committee, to appear before this committee to talk about the Defense Investment Agency, this new appointment, and I guess if there is still a refusal to comply with the motion that was passed at committee, then I would suggest we do need to move to summonsing Mr. Guzman and recalling the Minister of State to appear.
Ms. Gaudreau?
C'est la même chose pour moi, Monsieur le Président.
I share the same concerns. A health issue is legitimate. I hope he's doing okay. But really, I'm not interested in doing a summoning. So we still have a few meetings. There are people who are asking themselves questions who are worried. So please, I hope they respect what the committee decided upon.
Ms. Khalid, and then I had Mr. Patzer.
Thank you, Chair. Just seeking some clarity. When you say that the minister refused to attend today, what does that mean?
I'm not sure how to explain that. He will not
No, I
attend
mean, like, is it
without Mr. Guzman.
Is that a refusal to attend before the committee, or is that to say, look, Mr. Guzman has had emergency surgery that it was scheduled for today, and we'll wait until he comes back? I mean, when we say that there is a straight out refusal, for me, like the I guess the implications that I'm getting from yourself and your the opposite side of the table is that the minister is saying, I'm not coming. But I don't think that that's the case. So I do want to know, were there alternative dates that were offered by the minister?
No. The message was Mr. Guzman had to be away today, and I accept that for the reason offered. And then Minister Pierre, no, I will not attend. So the invite's been there for a while. They stated he would be here, and then Mr. Guzman's unavailable, so Mr. Pierre has made himself unavailable.
If I may, Chair, I do believe it's precedence that ministers appear with their officials for any additional information, any supplementary information that may be required in any meeting. I don't think that ministers tend to attend on their own, and I find it a little strange that we are holding a man to account who is dealing with surgery today, and then having to balance his ministry, his job, and then being accused of refusing to appear, which I don't think is accurate. Obviously, they had scheduled in a time for them to come, and I'm pretty sure that the Secretary of State would be more than willing to attend. Obviously, we want to make sure that that his officials are able to attend with him, and if his official has had a medical emergency, then I think that we as a committee should be a little bit more forthcoming in terms of rescheduling a date. We don't know what the recovery process is going to be like for Mr. Guzman.
Sure, I'll just address it just really quickly.
I'm still not.
I know, but we're not going to filibuster
me off,
here.
Chair. It's a little bit disrespectful the way you treat me in this committee.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let me.
No.
Let me,
you know what? All yours, Chair. Go ahead.
Colleagues, first of all, Ms. Rochford, I'm speaking, so I appreciate everyone not chirping in. You are repeating the fact. Couple things. Mr. Guzman is not an official, like a deputy minister. Ministers who have shown up without their deputy minister and others. Minister Pierre actually showed up in defense without in the defense committee without Mr. Guzman in tow. So apparently he can show up to one committee, but not us. But we will re-extend invitations to try and get them both here. And Mr. Patzer, and then Ms. Jansen, and perhaps we can get to our meeting. Oh, and then Ms. Sutz.
Oops. Yeah, Mr. Chair, I mean, if Mr. Guzman had a medical emergency, then obviously first off, I would like to wish him well and hope that he has a speedy recovery. But if this was not a medical emergency, if he had a planned surgery date, I mean, I think it would have been nice for the committee to have that knowledge, I guess, in advance. So maybe we could have arranged for Mr. Guzman to appear before his surgery, because to what Ms. Khalid said, we do not know what the recovery timeline and process will be for this. I do find it a little bit odd that she all of a sudden is the one with all the information about Mr. Guzman's schedule, but yet the committee has not been afforded that same luxury. I will also note that the motion of which this committee passed was passed on October 9th. I know we passed it slightly before Mr. Guzman was officially began his role, but we're now into December. He had just about a month and a half to be able to get his calendar in order, and I would think that discussing his mandate or his goals for the Defense Investment Agency would have been appropriate, especially because he is on the taxpayer for $900,000 or up to $900,000. And if this is the way that we are going to be treated as a committee, that is not a good start. So, yeah, I just want to register and the motion does not stipulate that they have to appear together. Mr. Pierre should be appearing. It is shameful that he has decided to duck this committee. Same with Mr. Lightbound.
Okay, I have Ms. Jansen, Ms. Suds. Colleagues, we will re-extend invites to both of them. So we ask that we're not repeating what has been said, but acknowledge that we will re-invite them and would like to get to Mr. Jakeson's team shortly. Ms. Jansen, go ahead, then Ms. Suds.
I know I'm new here to this committee, but I have to say it's beginning to feel a bit like a coordinated effort to keep Canadians in the dark, while billions of dollars are being committed behind closed doors. I mean, if the people entrusted with these responsibilities believe that they can avoid scrutiny or refuse lawful orders, blocking all sorts of information, blocking the PBO's information, dodging the committees, as we see, and yet they still claim to be stewards of the public money. I think they've misunderstood the job. So I don't know. I'm just saying, like, if this government continues to treat us as an inconvenience rather than an institution that's supposed to safeguard the public trust, Canadians will eventually draw their own conclusions about what's going on here.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
Ms. Suds, please, and then we'll try and get Mr. Jakes and his team.
Thank you, Chair. Very briefly, I find this conversation, frankly, just completely unnecessary. The clerk is aware of the reason that Mr. Guzman could not join us today. Very valid reason, of which, if any one of us was in those circumstances, we would not be able to appear. So factually, I think we should all wish him a speedy recovery and re-invite him as soon as he is able to join us. The motion as it was presented was for the Minister, the Secretary of State, to join along with Minister Guzman. From my understanding, there's a ton of value of having them both here together. The shared knowledge between them, I think, is important. So there's synergy in that, and I think, candidly, that's why we put them both in the motion. So, I take issue with any sort of insinuation that the minister's refusing to be here. He simply has said he would come with Mr. Guzman, as was requested. So I just think we need to choose our words wisely, and they will be here. There's no doubt in my mind, and certainly wish Mr. Guzman well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jakes and team, thanks for your patience. We will turn the floor over to you for an opening statement. Please go ahead, sir.
With their framework, I believe it counts as operational spending. Are there other changes like that? Because we've been their jurisdictions, they haven't included the same tax credits. Communities, it's more difficult with some instance. We don't want to bias people and say, oh, we're making investments. That's it. And as I mentioned about 10 minutes ago, with the IMF, there is a good justification in saying that making sure people are in good health, they're educated, they can find a job, they can be trained. That's a real capital fund. It's difficult to measure that. But conceptually, there is adjusting measures. Question and audio.
So we did send in an information request to the new agency at the beginning of November, and specifically it was in response to questions that we received at the Senate National Finance Committee around the specific agency and concerns that members of the Senate had with respect to transparency because of the administrative framework within which these agencies are being established, which is distinct from a standard government department. At the time, my response was, it might be different, but we'll see if the organization is willing to share information. I would say we did publish a report this morning on Build Canada Homes where the powers of information access we have that we utilize on behalf of parliamentarians worked really well. And that new organization shared information with us. We were able to analyze it, understand it, and we're able to publish that for the committee. In the case of the Defense Investment Agency, unfortunately, it hasn't been the case. So we asked for basic tombstone information regarding what's your budget, how many people work there, and could you break things out by standard object, which is in internal government accounting parlance. You need to know this. You need to know the different categories. So personnel, professional services, utilities, information, and so what have you. We didn't receive it. Initially, they reached out. They asked for an extension. We spoke with them on Friday, and they indicated we were unlikely to receive it any time in the near future, and that the request was sitting on the deputy's desk, and they didn't know when the deputy would sign it. At that point, I reached the conclusion that if the data exists, the department agrees that we have the legislative right of access. We're requesting the information to analyze on behalf of a Senate committee, consistent with our mandate, and there's no explanation from the government department regarding why we're not receiving it or when they will provide it to us. At that point, we concluded that it was a deemed refusal. So the government department in question on our website, we indicated that the information is simply, we closed the case and indicated the information is simply not going to be provided.
Was that the Department of National Defense or is that the Department of Public Service and Procurement?
It's PSPC.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Within your review that you had for military procurement, you talked about $476 million for the Future Fighter Capability Program. The government seems to be changing their minds on whether they're going to go with the F-35 or if they're going to continue with the F-35 or if they're going to switch to the Saab Gripen. What would happen if, with that $476 million, if the government continues?
So much. We'll now turn to questions. Mr. Cooper from the Conservatives for 6 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the witnesses. I'll start with Assistant Deputy Minister Oberton Jaguar. With regards to the Foreign Influence Registry, the Liberal government promised to get it up and running no later than June of this year, 1 year after Bill C-70 received royal assent. It's 6 months later, and as you noted, we don't have a registry in place. We don't even have a commissioner appointed. So in the face of that, when can we expect the registry to be up and running? You said as soon as possible, but what exactly does that mean?
So all the necessary elements need to be in place for the regime for the law to come into force. So it means essentially that you need to have the office and the necessary staff. You need to have the IT solution and then the regulations in place before coming into force. All these elements are being worked on right now. Advancing, we're very close to the finish line.
And I appreciate that, but we've had a series of dates. First of all, it was June. Well, actually, it was before the next election, but at the latest in June, 1 year after royal assent, we had an election. It wasn't in place. June came and went. No commissioner, no office, no registry. The Minister of Public Safety then said in the summer that a commissioner will be appointed by mid-September. You've said that we don't have a commissioner. We don't even have a final candidate selected yet by the government. And the minister also said December the registry would be in place. But as you noted, there are certain steps that have to be taken, including leaders of recognized parties, among other things, being consulted about the commissioner that was supposed to be in place in mid-September. So we've had date after date promised and date after date missed. So again, I ask, what is the timeline?
The initial timeline was based on the expectation that there will be an election no later than October 2025. But the early elections made us revisit the timelines. The minister was stated publicly that he has identified a preferred candidate, and we're working towards completing the necessary consultation steps. That's all I can say at this point, and to say that all the necessary elements for the delivery and the implementation of the Act are being worked on, and we're very, very close to the finish line.
Thank you. So so you're not able to provide a timeline. Is that fair? You can't provide a date. Can you provide an approximate date? Are we looking at, is it 6 months? Is it a year? Can you provide any, do you have any insight with regards to that?
Well, I'm not in a position to commit the minister to a specific date. What I can say is that we are very, very close to the finish line.
Well,
and the minister's statements reflect his sort of desire to have this implemented as soon as possible.
Okay. Now, with respect to the consultation process with regards to a commissioner, you said the minister has selected a candidate, has a preferred candidate. Can you just clarify what you said?
I just want to say what the minister has said. He has identified a candidate, very high-quality candidate.
Okay. Thank you for that. And has the consultation process with leaders of recognized parties begun with respect to that individual? Yes or no?
If they have been done?
Have they been done? Have they been commenced?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So still a lot of work to be done because the minister said all the way back in June that he was very close to the finish line, and here we are 6 months later. Now, Ms. Giles, I just want to ask you, were any accredited diplomats on CSIS's radar for interference-related activities in the lead-up to or during the 2025 federal election?
Thank you, Mr. Cooper, for the question and through the chair. Part of our responsibility is to be constantly vigilant and to be constantly monitoring and examining any potential acts of foreign interference that might be occurring on Canadian soil. So part of our job is to ensure that we are scanning, that we're monitoring, and that we constantly have our eye on whether there are any diplomats or any other individuals in Canada who could be perpetrating activities that are not allowed.
And can you answer whether any such accredited diplomats were identified as being involved in interference-related activities in the lead-up to or during the 2025 election?
So during the 2025 election, or G45 in our nomenclature, one of the things that was done differently by the site task force, so this is the Task Force for Security and Intelligence that was brought together to provide advice to the government and to Canadians during the election, is we did do weekly technical briefings to the media and to Canadians on foreign interference threats that were identified. There were no threats that were reported as part of that process that were emerging from diplomats during the election. There were 2 incidents, potential incidents of foreign interference that were identified and that were reported through the technical briefing
and I
process.
understand.
Thank you so much. You're over time, Mr. Cooper. And we'll now turn to Mr. Kelly for 5 minutes.
Chair, do you find that criminal organizations, the ones that you investigate, is it common for them to use tax havens to hide their gains and both to hide, I guess, their gains from the police, but also from law enforcement, but also to avoid taxes?
I mean, I can start, and then maybe Chad can jump in. Thank you for the question. I do believe, yes, they do use tax havens to hide and launder their money. They also, use the cryptocurrency exchanges as well. That's another piece. But yes, in short answer, yes, they do. I don't know if Chad, if you want to add anything to that.
That's good. That's the answer. Is a good answer or a complete answer. Which leads to my next question. The CRA told us a few weeks ago that they had only referred and had successfully seen through 14 prosecutions for offshore tax avoidance since 2000, so a little less than 3 per year. How many charges have you laid in relation to, let's even go the broadest category of files that you investigate? Like, how often are you laying charges for tax avoidance, or fraud, money laundering, all the things under your?
So there's a distinction there between the predicate offenses and the money laundering, and then just having your money in a tax haven. Having your money in a tax haven on its own, for us, that's a CRA mandate. It's not a crime. Right.
I'm asking. So for these predicate offenses, which could be any of a number of things, how often is your department as the senior, sort of the national organization investigating?
We'd have to get you the statistics if that's what you're looking for. We don't have it on hand. And then I think the important thing to your question, too, if I may ask, is you were talking about prosecutions versus charges?
Yes.
Because that's two different things, right?
I understand, but charges are what you do. That's why I'm asking you about charges.
Exactly. So we can come back with that.
Okay.
We don't have that statistic on hand.
Okay. Let me ask about cooperation with the CRA. So you are investigating predicate offenses. You're leaving just simple people that are taking lawfully earned profits and not paying taxes on it. That's the CRA's issue. But you are dealing with in cases where the profits are not legally gained. Do you find that you have, in your cooperation, are you a net sender or recipient of information with the CRA? I presume you refer files to the CRA.
We do refer to the CRA. The CRA will refer something back to, let's say in an example of they're looking at a tax evasion, simply a tax evasion, and then they come across a criminality that comes with it, then they'll refer it to us. So it's a two-way street. We'll refer either way. And sometimes we would collaborate together. Sometimes we work independent of each other.
I got lots of questions in little time. I want to ask about financial institutions. How do you characterize the level of cooperation you get? And this goes back to, as Ms. Cabina also said, I have working history in the finance sector, and it always seemed that the banks were reluctant to share information about what goes on in their own shop in fraud cases. Do you find that you get cooperation from the banks? Is it getting better or worse?
So we have great cooperation with the banks. We're the new IMLIP, the Integrated Money Laundering Intelligence Partnership, that was announced. We're working closely with the banks on information sharing. We're in the process of information sharing agreements with the banks to enhance our.
You have agreements that are not executed yet, but you're working on them?
Yes, correct.
Okay. One last question. The former finance minister had, goes along with a question we had earlier about legislative steps. I think Mr. McDonald asked about that. So one of the former finance ministers had called for a review of the Proceeds of Crime, Money Laundering, and Terrorist Financing Act. It's overdue for review. It hasn't happened. It doesn't appear to be picked up by the government currently under the new minister. How important is that, and what would you like to see from that review?
Just a quick answer, please.
Yeah.
Reviewing of any legislation and keeping up to date is always important. And with that, any review in our world, information sharing is always a key factor to look at.
Thank you. Next we have
Mr. Barrett. You have 6 minutes. Go ahead, please.
I'd like to pick up on just one of the points that you mentioned in your opening, and it was about the regulation of frontier AI systems. how would, in doing that, how would Canada defend against rogue nations from developing and deploying AI weapons? And what international coordination would be required to make those safeguards in the development of frontier AI systems effective?
Every nation has an advantage, has a sort of draw to protect its own systems as much as possible. And Canada has been working internationally since 2019 through the Global Partnership on AI, through the OECD, through the G8 and G7, sorry, and through other international mechanisms, including now the International AI Safety Institutes. We've been working quite diligently to establish more of commonality in how we are approaching AI and the regulation or the protection of AI around the world, of frontier AI around the world. So where we've got rogue nations that may be developing certain AI systems that are offensive to our own principles, it's really important to understand that Canada is already embedded in these international committees where we are playing a key role in establishing what the norms ought to look like, but also what the mechanisms to enforce those norms. We're not going to be able to do it alone at all. We do have to find who our friends are and where we have commonality in approach and in values. And just through that, establish the mechanisms that we need to defend those values and that approach.
I wanted to ask you about the long-term trajectory of superintelligent AI and worst-case scenarios that would follow if there weren't adequate safeguards that had been put in place that stopped this from getting away from us.
To any questions you may have regarding our estimates analysis.
Thank you, Mr. Jakes. And again, thank you for your team for your flexibility as always. We'll start with Mrs. Block for 6 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. In your report regarding supplementary estimates B, you make a statement that I found rather intriguing, and I'm just going to repeat it back to you and then ask some questions about it. You state on page 4 of your report that the supplementary estimates for the fall supply period ending December 10th have historically followed the tabling of the public accounts, which are the audited consolidated financial statements for the previous fiscal year. And you note that this year the public accounts of Canada were tabled on the same day as supplementary estimates B. You also go on to note that over the last 5 years, the supplementary estimates have followed on or before the day of public accounts, and 6 times in the last 10 years. And that appears to be a bit of a pattern to me. And I also note that you've stated that on financial reporting, timely publication of the public accounts would provide parliamentarians with more time for ex post financial scrutiny and better information to assess the government's budget plans and estimates. Again, this is rather concerning, and I just want to give you the opportunity to provide us with a bit more information around the timing of when these different documents are tabled and the impact that this has on parliamentarians to do their work.
Excuse me. Thank you for the question. So it wasn't only supplementary estimates B and the public accounts tabled that very busy first week of November. We also had the budget, and we also had the departmental results reports. So in the office, we lost count at around 10,000 pages worth of documentation that was released by the government that same week.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Bedfay. Mr. Caputo, you have 5 minutes, please.
Being here, Ms. O'Gorman, I'm going to ask you these questions. 1,000 border officers were promised by the Liberal government. 0 have been hired to this point, correct?
Incorrect.
How many have been hired?
So we have 57 people hired. By the end of the fiscal year, I would estimate we should have over 100. We're aiming for more than that. We're going to be recruiting our uniformed officers over 3 years. I think if we did it any faster than that, we would risk not meeting our standards that we have maintained of excellent, experienced people coming in and getting the training they need.
I understand that. Of those 57 that have been hired, were those planned hires or are those part of the 1,000 new officers?
So the 1,000 new officers, and you'll see in the budget, includes approximately 75 from the border plan and an additional 925 from the money in the budget, and it's both. So before the budget, je vais compléter mon phrase. So
allow me to finish my sentence.
Have people who have started at Rigaud before we got the actual budget
Gorman, I'm
funding.
sorry, I have to ask you. I've asked very concise questions. Please answer concisely. Of the 57 who were hired, how many of them were part of the 1,000 promised by the government? Please, just a number.
We have, well, I'll refer you to the budget.
Well,
the budget
with
outlines,
all due respect,
Sorry, Mr. Caputo, I understand, and we'll stop the clock. That is going smoothly, but there's a point at which it's impossible for people to either interpret or listen to the interpretation. So please, let's make sure we don't overlap the conversations.
So, Ms. O'Gorman, I'm going to be very clear here. If you don't know the answer, please just say it. You said, I asked whether 1,000 new officers, 0 had been hired. You said incorrect, 57 were hired. The implication of that is that that was part of the 1,000 promised by the government. Okay? So I'm going to be very clear. Of the 57 hired, how many of them were part of the 1,000 extra officers that were promised by the government? Just a number, please.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to seek to answer the question, ideally without interruption. The budget included the funding for the officers. Based on that funding that's in the budget, 57 people have been hired.
So is that
based on that funding as it's outlined in the budget?
But that's not. I'm asking a very simple question, and I'm getting a bit of a runaround here. So I'm just going to move on here. This study was about 600 foreign nationals for whom we didn't know where they were. That's the title of the study. But the actual number we now know is we thought it was 600. It's actually 33,130. Is that correct?
So as I've testified before, and as is posted on our website, there are approximately 33,000 people who are on a removal order who have absconded.
Without warrant, or sorry, with warrant. 33,000 people where you don't know where they are. Now, the minister actually said we have addresses for those people, or we used to have addresses for those people. Absconded is the word you just used. That would suggest we don't know where they are, do we?
So I'm going to go back to the other question because
there's
a
risk
here, of conflating.
With
you
all
mentioned
due,
six.
With all due respect, ma'am, I'm asking questions here, and I will not permit you to talk out the clock when I'm asking very direct questions. Okay? I think we have an answer to that, so let's just move on. You said that there was screening by a border services officer. This is in order to ensure that terrorists and criminals do not come into Canada. But in fact, it was revealed in committee here that up to 50% of officers at airports are actually students. Do you acknowledge that there are frontline students who are independently evaluating with 3 weeks of experience, or pardon me, 3 weeks of training, 1 week of which is for use of force, whether they are doing the same work as an officer evaluating people coming into the country?
Our students are doing work at the airports they are not doing the same work in terms of the evaluation and the risk assessment and decisions under IRPA.
Okay, no, I want to stop you there, please. So is what you're saying that when somebody arrives at the airport, the person who is interviewing them is not a student?
Are you talking about a traveler or somebody seeking asylum?
Both.
So
the first point of contact, is there a student there?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for your remarks, Mr. Sabini. You brought me back to the days of when I was working in the financial sector. And we know, I think you hit the nail on the head in that these criminals are highly sophisticated. They're very fast. They adapt, and these schemes are highly complex, and they change all the time. And oftentimes, when you take a step back, you think, well, how is the law and the rules ever going to keep up with them, right? Because they're around the world, but at the same time, for the average Canadian who is working incredibly hard and abiding by the rules and paying the taxes, it can be also extremely frustrating to know that not only is the tax code so complicated that only the highly sophisticated, the people that are extremely wealthy to be, and the ones that are able to afford sophisticated lawyers and accountants will be able to find the loopholes and not pay taxes, and that's frustrating to the average Canadian. But my question to you is, what do you see as the biggest risk right now in terms of money laundering, tax evasion, and financial crime? Because it happens all day, every day, and how do we as a country keep up with that?
Thank you for your question, and through you, Mr. Chair. It's very true what you're saying. The organized crime elements are using very sophisticated methods in sheltering their money. They're using cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies are very difficult to trace in some instances. They're using different types of wallets that are not the typical ones that we would know that are above ground. So it becomes very difficult to have to trace it, and layering of the companies. And sometimes we have lawyers that are named in these companies, and then you've got lawyer clients, solicitor privilege, which also becomes an issue. Some of these lawyers are willingly doing it, some unknowingly doing it. So it becomes a very difficult task from a law enforcement perspective. We are looking at it from the crime. We're not looking at the tax evasion side of the house. That's a CRA mandate. We're looking at the predicate offenses, the drug trafficking that's leading to the money laundering, the frauds, the sophisticated frauds, the large frauds that are the predicate offense that are allowing them to move large funds, across.
What is the biggest risk? Like, what should we as parliamentarians focus on? Because this, like I said, it happens all day.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Yeah.
So what is the best way to target?
So maybe I'll pass the question over to Chad. He's in some of the working groups, so he may be able to give you a more detailed answer there.
Yes, thank you. One of the larger risks or things that we have to deal with is beneficial ownership. It is a hot button topic for us. Who actually controls or owns certain trusts or corporations? Certain low tax jurisdictions have allow complex setup of trusts or corporate registries, and finding out who the actual owner of those is a challenge for the police, especially when dealing with our international partners in certain jurisdictions.
Yeah. And do you have a sense of the volume of investigations? Like, how many investigations would you typically do in a year?
I do not have that number with me, but I would be happy to provide that after.
Okay. And out of the investigations, just roughly speaking, maybe percentage-wise, how many would be actually convicted?
That I don't know as well. That PPSC would our Crown Council or the courts keep track of that number.
Okay. And I suppose on average, how long would an investigation take?
That's a good question. So some can be rather quick and some can be quite lengthy, years. Even I'll call it a simple financial crime investigation is many months. It's not a week or two thing. But yes, several years in most cases leading up to the charges to go to trial.
Thank you. And how big of a problem do you think is the misuse of offshore tax havens and tax evasion when it comes to financial crime and its impact on Canada's economy and tax system?
Well, the numbers, I don't know exactly how much is in tax havens. I mean, it does have a large impact. I mean, those are, that's revenue that, we don't see or is provided to the government. As we alluded to earlier, the tax evasion.
Ms. St. Germain, thank you so much for joining us virtually here today. I'm compelled by your testimony. I have a few quick questions for you. First off, I'm hoping that you can maybe dive into explaining a little bit more with regards to, you talked about the importance of duty to care, or duty of care, with regards to platforms. And you would suggest that legislation is needed in this regard. I'm hoping you can expand on that for this committee.
Yes. So to date, we don't have any specific legislation that talks about a duty of care for platforms. What we've sort of done is defaulted under sort of the American model, where we're not really doing anything about the companies themselves. So there was a lot of discussion leading up to the introduction of Bill C-63. And our executive director was actually part of a committee that was advising on sort of which direction Canada should go in. The duty of care model is something that was adopted in the UK under their online safety legislation. And it does appear to be something that is a step in the right direction in terms of holding the companies themselves accountable. We certainly have very robust criminal laws in Canada to tackle when somebody is committing a criminal offense against an individual, and we use those criminal offenses quite a bit. What we do not do, though, is we don't use those criminal laws against companies. There's very good reasons for that in terms of how difficult it is to prosecute against a company. I'm aware of one known instance where we did prosecute a company for their role in making available child sexual abuse material. The charges were laid in 2012, and the guilty plea was not received until 2020. So for 8 years, there were numerous court appearances. There was a lot of public money that was spent in this prosecution. Now, I'm glad that we had that prosecution, but I think 8 years is far too long for a resolution on something like this, and criminal law is perhaps not the best fit when it comes to companies.
So I can appreciate that. If criminal law is not necessarily maybe the best fit when it comes to large conglomerates, these companies, what is the best way then? What is the best way to enforce compliance? How do we create teeth?
Right. Well, and I think nations across the world are grappling with this very same issue. We do have some working models that we're seeing out of Australia and out of the UK, and now recently the EU has also enacted legislation. Countries do need to do this because what we're dealing with is an internet that is, of course, international and transcends borders. But if the countries of the world that have sort of the most active users start to take an approach, a regulatory approach against these countries that are sort of aligned, we should start to see better improvements for children. And in fact, we have already seen that there are improvements in terms of the way that the companies operate because of what Australia and the UK in particular have been doing over the last several years.
In most of these cases, then, does it just come down to a monetary penalty?
In terms of a regulatory approach, that's generally what happens, is that there is some sort of a monetary approach attached to it. But really what it is signaling when a government sort of enacts something that is regulatory in nature is they're signaling that they're serious about this and that they want the companies to be doing something. Up until now, we've allowed the companies to voluntarily set the rules. for our own citizens and for the safety of our citizens. It's very clear that that has failed miserably and that we are well behind the 8 ball in terms of actually addressing this issue. We need to start doing something. Yes, there are going to be hiccups along the way, I'm certain. Yes, legislation is not going to be perfect the first time we go at it, but we need to start. Legislation takes a long time to come into play. So do regulations. We need to get started. We need to get started soon.
Okay, thank you. Now, there is one area in which you talk about the need for changes to the criminal code, and that is with regards to the increase in AI-generated sexually explicit material, i.e. deep fakes, and the impact that that has on children. What specific amendments to the criminal code might you suggest in order to make sure that deepfake-based victimization is tackled?
Is that question to me?
Mr. Mean, yes,
Okay.
it is to you.
Okay. And when it comes to deep fakes of children that qualify as child sexual abuse material, Canada's laws are good enough on the criminal side. They're definitely robust enough to take that into account. Now, having said that, when we're talking about intimate images of adults, or when we're talking about older teenagers that don't always see, you can't always tell that it's a child in the image, then the amendment of the non-consensual distribution of an intimate image provision in the criminal code to explicitly contemplate deepfakes is what is needed for that part of it. Now, the other thing is, of course, is that you can create deepfakes that maybe don't meet the definition of child sexual abuse material, but can still be incredibly harmful to the individual. And that is a separate issue that we do need to look at very, very carefully as a country. And there may be a need and a proper way to enact a criminal code provision that would address that type of material, particularly when it involves children.
Okay. Thank you very much. I believe that's my time.
These are Muslim values. These are Canadian values.
This morning in Ottawa, the Liberals made an announcement, a very serious one, that they are planning to work with the Bloc Québécois to criminalize religious belief in Canada. If you don't believe me, here is a national news story. Liberals deal with the Bloc means hate speech laws will lose exemption for sincerely held religious belief. I am going to break down for you what this means. This is the Liberals are about to criminalize religious belief in Canada. I'm going to break this down for you in detail on what's happening, but I need you to do 2 things. I need you to share this video, and I also need you to click on the link that's in the comments and click subscribe, because I'm going to be writing about this, and we know that existing Liberal censorship bills prevent information like this from getting out. So again, what the Liberals have announced this morning that we're all dealing with on Parliament Hill is that they intend to criminalize religious belief. And I'm going to explain to you how. I know this sounds that this can't be happening, but it is. And this information is going to help you understand why and communicate it to people. And regardless of how you vote, if this passes, freedom of religious belief is what makes Canada Canada. And they're about to try and stop that. So please share this video. Please help me get this word out. Everybody needs to fight this. So what is happening? Let me break this down for you. So the Liberals introduced a bill a few months ago. It's called Bill C9. It is another censorship bill. It's a thought crime bill. Conservatives have been actively opposing it. But what it does is it hands the government powerful new tools to decide what the courts will consider as hate speech. So we all know that when the Liberals try to define something as hate speech, it is, the purpose of it is to stop communication of different ideas. And I'm going to get into how existing hate speech laws are not enforced by the Liberal government, but let me break down what C9, this new bill, does. So it lowers the bar for hatred. It removes key safeguards and creates vague new crimes that can be stretched to silence dissent. So that's what Bill C9 does. It creates a new vague definition of hatred, and it replaces extreme detestation with just detestation or vilification. These are very vague terms that could be used to describe almost anything. And again, for people who are like, oh, no, that's not the case. That's exactly what's in the bill. The second thing that it does is it removes the Attorney General's consent so that police can charge you directly with no higher level filter. And it opens the door, frankly, and my concern is that it opens the door for politically motivated arrests. It does a few other things, but these are key elements on why conservatives have been opposing this bill. And this morning, what they've done is they've announced that the one or two safeguards that were in here, they want to remove them so that it'll be easier to criminalize religious thought. Now, in committee on this bill already, we've seen the Liberals talk about criminalizing certain types or muse about criminalizing certain types of religious thought. So this isn't something that's esoteric. They've already thought about this, and I'm going to get more on proof on why this is a big problem in a second. But here's the thing, guys, there's already existing laws that deal with hate speech in Canada, and they're not being enforced. We know that we have a massive problem with anti-Semitism in Canada, but the government already has tools that they can use to prosecute these types of issues, and they're not. So, for example, the criminal code under section 319.1, it's already an offense to publicly incite hatred. 319.2 to promote hatred. 319.7 makes it clear that there are certain gestures and signs can promote hatred as well. But the government and activist courts have not, or police have chosen not to actually enforce these. So we already have these laws on the books. And the government, you've all watched the government sit idly by while police refuse to enforce certain types of laws in situations where, frankly, Jewish Canadians are being targeted, right? So these laws are already on the books, and the government is refusing to enforce them. But now they've got this new bill where they're saying that they will make an amendment so that there is no exceptions for religious belief, essentially. So that's a huge problem. What else is the problem, guys? Well, we know that activist courts and police that are not enforcing existing laws are problematic. Where has my leader, the conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, we've been talking about how the government has refused to do anything or even acknowledged that church burnings are a problem, right? This article is just from last month. The article is 3 charges of burning near.
From MP Kirkland, you have 6 minutes, madam.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for being here again today. We appreciate you here and your testimony. The title of the study is obviously we're looking at removals, and I know that the folks, the officers involved in that are inland officers as well, which is an example of one of the ladies who lives in my riding who has made complaints in terms of discrimination, was an inland officer. And so I have concerns that if the respect in the workplace isn't what it should be, that we will have a whole lot of difficulty with removals. So I do have a few questions regarding that and the fact that we had heard testimony from the Customs and Immigration Union president, and when I asked about his perspective on how widespread the discrimination or retaliation specifically faced by women who go through something like maternity leave or illness, his response was, the CBSA ranks last in the public service employee survey almost every year. That is not an accident. There is fear of reprisal. There's fear of reporting. There's fear of being subject to an investigation that is not impartial. Ms. O'Gorman, could you add your comments to that? Would you agree with the union president, or do you see things differently?
So I will say that I certainly heard the very emotional testimony that was provided here the other day. And I will say that I have also dealt with employees who have had unacceptable experiences.
Just interrupt you briefly. I really want to be clear. I'm not talking about experiences. I'm talking about harassment and discrimination. And there's very clear terminology that is used for a reason, because an experience could be something very light, and harassment and discrimination is something very heavy. So that's the only clarification I'd like to make.
No, okay, thank you. But perhaps I could just have the time to unpack my whole answer, because I think people's experiences are also very important and very compelling. So I'm not going to defend all of the individuals at CBSA. We have systems and processes that are there to address issues of discrimination and harassment, but I'm not going to testify that they are all working and that people don't experience discrimination and harassment in the workplace. And in fact, I think I've been quite public about the work that CBSA needs to do across all fronts, including in its management, to make sure that we are aligned not only with our code of conduct, with our values, but the various policies that are in place to prevent these incidents from happening and prevent people from being subjected to harassing and discriminatory behavior. So absolutely on our public service. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
I do have your answer. That's
but I'm not finished the answer.
Well, I have some clarification which needs coming forward. It sounds like then you're willing to admit that some investigations may not be impartial, based on what you just said.
So I'm going to step back and say we have some problems in the agency that include people being subjected to harassing and discriminatory behavior. So I'm being clear about that. We need our systems and processes to work. We need the confidence of Canadians we need the confidence of Canadians. And in order to have the confidence of Canadians, we have to have the confidence of one another. And so people need to feel that those systems and processes will treat them fairly. And in many cases, the top level of those systems and processes get a...
Start with, is it Mrs. Provoke? Okay. Thank you. First of all, I want to congratulate you. It's amazing to find someone getting into the trades. I think it's really important that women are represented in the trades. You mentioned earlier about the abusive relationships, the relationship that you had. So my question will be to both of you, and it's a simple one. Violence against women is up 76%. Do you think that our laws are not strong enough to protect women in this country?
Personally, I don't. I don't think they are after having gone through the experiences. I don't think they are on either end either. And knowing males that have gone through physically abusive relationships also at the hands of females and not being believed. We have repeat offenders. My ex-partner, my kid's dad, went on to abuse the next person he was with also. I think it's perpetuated, and thank God every day that my son is not like that and that he's a better person. But I don't think that there's enough protection for women, and we're seeing domestic violence all over the place increase.
And Dr. Moran, the same question to you, please.
Yes, I think we can improve our legal framework in terms of a punitive response. However, I don't think that that'll be a panacea. There's also a lot of...
Traduction?
Pardon. Oh, no, it's been fixed. Perfect. And so there needs to be a security response, a legal response that can be improved, but that doesn't deal with the whole issue because there's anti-feminist content, meninist content, etc. that doesn't meet the threshold of a criminal act. That is why some hate crime can be better addressed by the legal system than others. We don't want to be in a country where there's such a punitive system that people can no longer express themselves. I think both complement each other. When I look at the numbers that I gave you earlier, and now I'm going beyond violence against women, when I just look at the symbolic discourse, we also need to work in prevention. I think we must do both together.
I guess my concern here is that we've just gone through a study of IPV, and the numbers, speak for themselves. I'm going to ask you, Dr. Moran, your book mentioned that anti-feminism is largely ignored in public debate and poorly documented. Isn't it a failure of government policy to leave such a deadly threat in blind spots of research and public safety?
Absolument. Écoutez, mes discussions avec le gouvernement fédéral, notamment sécurité publique.
Well, listen, I am discussing this with the federal government. They're interested in it more and more, notably because of the 2 mass shootings in Toronto that woke people up to this issue. But I think that the research issue is that it takes a lot of time to collect data, to analyze it. And so I think what's important is to better understand this specific phenomenon before legislating. Often we may tend to take measures without necessarily really properly evaluating the issue. I think that's the issue.
Back to you. I can't pronounce your name. Procu. There I go. I'll get it. Thank you. So I guess my question to you now is that listening to your story really gives me encouragement that women that have gone through what you've gone through, the violence.
Here. The Honourable Member for Sackville Bedford Preston.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize an extraordinary achievement by Synergy, a local barbershop quartet in Nova Scotia. Earlier this month in Hershey, Pennsylvania, Synergy Quartet was crowned the 2025 Queens of Harmony at the International Harmony Competition, representing Eastern Canada on the world stage and competing against top quartets from across North America. This is the first time since 1993 that a quartet from Area 1, which includes 9 chapters across the 4 Atlantic provinces, has earned this title, and only the 3rd time in the region's history. The quartet includes Sue Kember and Jennifer Cleveland of HRM's Scotianaires Chorus, alongside Adele Merritt and Karina Garriok of Valley Voices. Their victory reflects the musical excellence that exists in our province and the strength of our women-led arts communities. It also speaks to the value of supporting Canada's homegrown arts sector so that talent like this can continue to succeed. Congratulations to Synergy Quartet and everyone involved on bringing home this well-deserved international honor. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for York-Durham.
Promises and reality, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister's promise was a so-called generational investment to rapidly scale up housing to meet his target of 500,000 homes a year. The reality is that the budget watchdog said this morning that the new bureaucracy will actually only build 5,200 homes per year. That means that the Liberals are over 1 million homes short over the next 5 years and will only address 4% of Canada's housing gap. And the future isn't any brighter. Yesterday, the Missing Middle Initiative reported that housing starts are down across nearly every GTA municipality. But Conservatives haven't given up on the Canadian dream, the dream to earn, save, and own a home. And that's why Conservatives will incentivize municipalities to cut building taxes, spend less, and keep interest rates down so mortgages can be affordable, and scrap the industrial carbon tax on the steel, the lumber, and every single thing that builds a Canadian home.
The Honourable Member for Pontiac-Kitigan-Zibi. Mr. Speaker, today, to mark the week of remembrance and action against violence against women, I would like to congratulate and to show my full support to an essential organization in my riding, Mr. Speaker, Entourelle. Thank you to Giselle, Ashley, Christy, Alicia, Casey, Chantal, and all the stakeholders who accompany and support you in this essential work. You make a real difference in our riding with your courage, your determination, your professionalism. You bring hope to all women and victims of violence and intimate partner violence. So today, we honor you and your work, and we support you in everything you do. We stand alongside you. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for Portage-Lisgar.
This Prime Minister is riddled with conflicts of interest, and companies like Brookfield are raking it in while he is at the helm.
That's right.
Not only did the Prime Minister help his company avoid paying $6.5 billion in taxes, but they're now also Canada's greatest tax dodger. A bike shop in Bermuda? No problem. A couple of tax havens in the Cayman Islands? You got it. Anything to keep Brookfield outside the reach of the CRA. Ordinary Canadians are struggling to put food on their plates and a roof over their heads, while the Prime Minister's elite friends just keep benefiting. And his so-called ethics screen, it's mostly a joke. The Ethics Committee found that 95% of Brookfield's companies, nearly 1,900 of them, aren't included. If they perform well, the Prime Minister is going to reap the reward, so no wonder that he wants to help them. Instead of avoiding questions as he helped Brookfield avoid taxes, the Prime Minister needs to come clean. Is he here to serve Canadians or Brookfield and himself? Conservatives will not stop asking questions. We'll expose this sleaziness and fight to make sure that it stops.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Fredericton Oromocto.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to congratulate Constantine Paceras, a constituent of Fredericton Oromocto who was recently awarded the 2025 Canada Volunteer Awards Atlantic Prize for his outstanding contributions to building a welcoming and inclusive New Brunswick. For more than 50 years, Constantine has dedicated thousands of volunteer hours, connecting people from diverse backgrounds and championing collaboration. En tant que fondateur du...
As founder of the New Brunswick Multicultural Council, his expertise played a role in shaping multicultural policies throughout the Atlantic region.
National leader, a role model for New Brunswick's multicultural community, and his unwavering commitment to diversity and inclusion continues to enrich our province. So please join me in congratulating Dr. Constantine Paceras and thanking him for championing multiculturalism in New Brunswick. Merci.
Oral questions, questions orales, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Let's go.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's bad enough that this Prime Minister has appointed a minister from the Trudeau years who ruined our immigration system and increased the cost of living. But this same minister this morning, the one responsible for heritage, says that he's had it. Says that he has had it with the decline of the French language. We're not fed up with it. We want to defend the French language. All those Liberal members, well, are they tired of someone who wants to defend French language and culture? The Right Honourable Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, the government has immigration under control. May I continue? Asylum seekers, the numbers have fallen by 1/3, and we will defend the French language with the greatest investments ever in the cultural sector. Mr. Speaker, the question had to do with the statement by his new minister who said he had had it. He was fed up with the debate on the decline of the French language. The Prime Minister's answer shows that we should all be worried about the decline of the French language. Why is it that among all Liberal members of Parliament, he has chosen to appoint someone who's fed up with defending the French language and Quebec culture? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I am for my new minister. I am against the leader of the official opposition, who is against our action plan for the French language, $4 billion. He's against the investments in the Quebec cultural sector. He is against the increase in Francophone immigrants to Canada. We defend the French language.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, we learned today that 8 months after the Prime Minister was elected, promising to build nation-building projects at speeds not seen in generations, He hasn't even begun consulting with First Nations people about his promised pipeline to the Pacific. And now the Assembly of First Nations has condemned his plan because he hasn't done any consulting with them. Today he will address the Assembly. Will he for once say one thing to no matter who the group he's speaking to, be clear that he wants the pipeline to get built and that he'll get the consultations done to make it happen?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the great thing about Hansard is you can consult it and find out what the member opposite said last week.
Come on.
In effect, would we ram through a pipeline? No, never.
No, never.
We will consult free, prior, informed consent with First Nations. We will work with the province of British Columbia. We have conditions in the MOU with Alberta. We know how to work with the provinces. We know how to consult. We know how to respect. Does the member opposite?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Transcripts are great things, and he just renamed Justin Trudeau's immigration minister to cabinet, the guy who destroyed our immigration system and helped double the housing costs in this country. And that minister has now had something to say about this prime minister's failure to consult on pipelines. He said the consultation should have started yesterday, and it can't be done on a desktop, making reference to his fellow ministers' promise that they would do consultations by Zoom. So why is it that he didn't start 8 months ago consulting First Nations? Is it because he doesn't care what they have to say, or because he just doesn't want the pipeline to get built?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I recognize this situation is very, very complicated for the member opposite. That's right. First off, you have to have a pipeline project. You have to have a private proponent. In order for that to happen, we had to create the conditions precedent. We have now done that because we talk to the provinces. We work with the provinces. Mr. Speaker, in the Building Canada Act, which was passed before the member opposite returned to this House, we set out the consultation process for nation-building projects.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
So he's broken his promise to get big projects built, and now we learn that he has broken his promise to get houses built. He promised during the election he would double home building to 500,000 units per year. Today, the Parliamentary Budget Officer revealed that his brand new bureaucracy will only build 5,000 homes per year. 99% less than he promised, Mr. Speaker, after Conservatives built well over 200,000 homes at half the cost today. Why won't he listen to us and stop building bureaucracy so that we can start building homes?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the great thing about being a lifelong member of Parliament is you've never built anything and you don't know numbers.
True.
And you don't. Containing 86,868 units, 130,000 a unit. That is what we're doing, Mr. Speaker.
You're a loser.
Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the only thing that member built when he was the governor of the Bank of England was the housing crisis in that country. And then he built a tax haven in the Caribbean so he wouldn't have to pay the same taxes he imposes on the Canadian people. Our youth need homes, jobs, and hope. This Prime Minister only offers them broken promises and more sacrifices. He even held a photo op in front of a house that was dismantled after he left it. So here we have a Prime Minister whose houses disappear after he announces them and promises disappear after he makes them.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the House in that announcement was sent to Nunavut. Nunavut is one of the territories of this great country. Nunavut is more than just a place where you fly in, make a photo op, don't speak to the Premier of Nunavut. Nunavut is where we are building 700 houses under Build Canada Homes. Houses that are cheaper, houses that are more efficient, houses that work.
L'honorable député de Belleuil.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, last Thursday, the Prime Minister announced an agreement with Alberta, which is a problem in many ways. I want to ask the government, if it would commit irrevocably to not do anything in British Columbia without the express consent of British Columbia and First Nations. The answer was yes. But yet the announcement was made. Now, what is it? No, please be careful with the language you use. This is not outside the rules, but it might provoke a certain reaction, and one reaction can lead to another, and the two reactions can provoke disorder. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We respect provincial rights and jurisdiction. We respect British Columbia. It is absolutely clear in the Memorandum of Understanding that we and the province of Alberta will work together with British Columbia. We need an agreement for a pipeline. The Honourable Member. Now, when you want the agreement of one party to an agreement, you invite them right away, because the agreement the Prime Minister signed will apply even without British Columbia. So will the Prime Minister recognize that he has not respected what he said in the House, that he didn't show great respect for the truth when he signed this agreement? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this was not a contract. This was a memorandum of understanding. And this has to do with conditions that are sufficient, but they are necessary. It is not the end of a process. It is the beginning of a process with Alberta, with British Columbia, and above all, a process with Indigenous peoples. The Honourable Member for Berry-Chambly. It's a piece of paper that he signed and which creates obligations. It is a contract. He can call it whatever he likes, in whatever language he likes. Given what is at stake with the moratorium on tankers, given issues with greenhouse gases, given the absence of an agreement with First Nations who voted against this agreement this morning, does the Prime Minister not think he should make sure that all parties should be able to sign this free, prior, and informed consent? The Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this is a memorandum of understanding with commitments, with great investments that Alberta will make in carbon capture. The industrial carbon tax, 6 times greater. And also we are tightening rules in other areas.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, you can't build homes if you run out of the House.
Right.
And that's what the Prime Minister is doing right now.
Knows that is very close to the line, and his colleagues know that there's no singing in the House. So anyway, the Honourable Leader has the floor now.
Mr. Speaker, it's very sad the Prime Minister does not want to debate how we get homes for our youth. Our young people deserve homes, jobs, and hope. He was feeling very cocky a few minutes ago until he worried that I might present him with the facts that the Parliamentary Budget Officer revealed today that his new housing bureaucracy will build only 5,000 homes per year, which is barely 1% of the 500,000 homes that he promised during the election. Construction is falling off the cliff. Why won't the Prime Minister stand in this House and debate it?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, for the record, the Prime Minister is doing his job, and now he's off to speak with the Assembly of First Nations, doing the job of the Prime Minister of Canada, not standing in this House doing quippy quips for Twitter.
We don't know when that now is, really, right? Because it's not necessarily talking about the present, but it's at some point now is a large concept. So, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Now the Prime Minister could be debating. He's got plenty of time.
I thought the Honourable Member was done. He wasn't done. Sorry, apologize.
As I was saying, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is doing his job and off to give an address and consult with the Assembly of First Nations, not doing quippy quips for Twitter with the Leader of the Opposition, which I know he would very much like to do, as he likes to obstruct, obfuscate, and as he's shown earlier in question period, not have a single handle on a single fact about a single indicator about life in this country.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Let's speak about indicators then. I'm going to quote the Parliamentary Budget Officer. Build Canada Homes, the Prime Minister's program, is presented as part of the government's efforts to double the pace of housing construction over the next decade. That said, the government has not yet laid out an overall plan to achieve this goal. We anticipate that the contribution of Build Canada Homes will likely be modest, and estimate that the program will add about 26,000 units over 5 years, representing 2.1% increase in housing completions, not the 100% increase the Prime Minister promised. Was this just another bait and switch?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, if the member opposite took the time to actually read the report, he would discover that the Parliamentary Budget Officer stated this will build 86,000 homes, affordable homes across Canada. This is the initial investment. I know it's hard for the Conservatives to understand. We're going in phases here. The initial phase is $13 billion, which they voted against in the budget. They're doing nothing to build homes, which matches the opposition leader's record in the past of 6 homes. So,
the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
That minister was literally the mayor of the city that became the most expensive housing market in all of North America. More expensive than New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and now he brags that not only will they only build about 2% of the homes that they promised during the election, but they're spending $13 billion to do it, Mr. Speaker. Failing is bad. Failing expensively is even worse. So rather than having the costly mayor stand up and answer for him, will the Prime Minister have the courage to answer for himself? Where are the homes he promised?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families. The Minister may begin from the top.
Mr. Speaker, all across the country, municipalities are stepping up to make new housing available for some of the most vulnerable people in our community. Take the City of Thunder Bay, who just last night, through their council, approved a motion to free up surplus city land for 1,400 homes, facilitated by the Housing Accelerator Fund, Mr. Speaker. That's the work of a government who's behind communities, who's behind people. And here's what we can say about the Conservatives. They vote against the very people that need that help. Mr. Speaker, we're building Canada strong with municipalities like the municipality Marathon who's here today.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for pointing out that we have voted against every single program that doubled housing costs in Canada. This Prime Minister created the biggest housing crisis in the G7 when he was the Bank of England governor. And now he's come here to adopt the same Trudeau-era policies of building bureaucracies rather than building homes. He promised this was all going to change, that the latest bureaucracy would change everything. But today, the parliamentary budget officer proved that he'll only build 2% of what he promised. Why does this Prime Minister block homes and break promises?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it's rich for the Leader of the Opposition to speak about this. As we all know, when he was Housing Minister and I was the Mayor of Vancouver, he built 6 homes as a Housing Minister. A deplorable record, and it's deplorable that the members opposite won't support a budget that has $13 billion for affordable housing, that the parliamentary budget officer states will build 86,000 affordable homes. You won't vote for that, you won't support affordable housing, and that matches your historical record.
Again, through the chair, please. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it was 200,000 homes, and the average cost of buying one was $450,000, Mr. Speaker. The average rent for a one-bedroom was $900. This government came along and built bureaucracy to block homes and printed money to inflate their costs. They allowed mass immigration that was out of control, that ballooned demand, and left us with the worst and most expensive housing anywhere in the G7. And today, the parliamentary budget officer blew the lid off their latest promises, showing that they will build about almost none of the homes that they actually promised in the last election. Why won't the Prime Minister stand in the House and take account for that?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the lid's been blown off, but the lid's been blown off the tired lines of the Leader of the Opposition, which he's been using for 2 years. He has systematically stood in the way of investments in supportive, in social, in low-cost and low-income housing in this country throughout his exclusive 20-year career in this House of Commons. He has systematically stood in the way of supports like dental care, like child care, like the Canadian Child Benefit, like school nutrition, the very things that he fakes and pretends to care about in this House, but would vote against, and Canadians know he would vote against everything with care in the name, Mr. Speaker. He needs to...
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it is impossible for us to vote against affordable housing because there is no affordable housing after 10 years of this Liberal government. Now, one positive idea we could all agree on is to reduce the cost of the steel, the concrete, the cement, the glass that goes into building homes. But unfortunately, this Liberal government has an industrial carbon tax whose stated purpose is to raise the cost of all of those things. Why won't they accept this positive idea to take taxes off home building so that our youth can finally have homes, jobs, and hope like they deserve?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Yesterday it was distressing to see member of parliament after member of parliament from the Conservative side vote against and argue against relieving consumers of the price of carbon, which we have, as you know, in this bill in front of the House promised to do, which they voted against. Mr. Speaker, they will vote against a tax cut for 22 million Canadians. Mr. Speaker, something again that Conservatives like to talk about, lower taxes, but in actuality fight against. So who are they really fighting for, Mr. Speaker? Because it sure isn't the Canadians or the Conservatives I'm talking to in Thunder Bay Superior.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the industrial carbon tax is not just a tax on homes, it's a tax on food. When you tax the steel that goes into farm equipment and the fertilizer that is necessary to grow food, when you tax the food processor, you tax the food. No wonder that since this Prime Minister took office, food prices have increased roughly 40% faster in Canada than they have in the United States. Canadians deserve affordable, nutritious, delicious food on their plate. Will the Prime Minister stand up now and agree to get rid of the industrial carbon tax so that Canadians can afford to eat?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Here we go again, Mr. Speaker, here we go again with the imaginary taxes. And as my colleague just said, when presented with the opportunity to vote for a tax cut for every single income taxpayer in this country, they say no. When they get a chance to vote to cut the GST, to remove it on the GST for first-time homebuyers, they say no. When they get the chance to vote for the removal of the consumer carbon tax, what do the Conservatives say? No, Mr. Speaker. When the time comes to vote to give Canadians a break, what do the Conservatives say? No.
L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, the new Minister of Official Languages, the Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, the new Minister for Official Languages is already fed up with his mandate. Now, he's saying when people say that French is in decline, well, he doesn't seem to care, even though Montreal is becoming more English-speaking. For him, the defense of French is a boring subject which only xenophobic Quebecers complain about. Why did the Prime Minister appoint such a person as minister responsible for official languages? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I went to grade school and high school in Sechep, all in French. I did my degree, my BA in French, and I have raised my children in 3 languages, including French. I adore the French language, and I will defend that beautiful language till the end of my days. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, the Minister really should be fed up with the fact that Quebec is just twiddling its thumbs when it comes to defending French. He should be fed up with the fact that fewer Quebecers can listen to music in French, fewer Quebecers can read in French, can see shows in French, because our language is threatened. Now, is the Minister fed up for the right reasons? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, what I deplore is politicizing this beautiful language. I know that the Bloc cares about French, but what I'm asking is that they join with us, all members who care about French, and that they support our strategy. For the first time in our history is putting over $1 billion into defending French, and I will do so to the end of my days.
The Honourable Member for Parry Sound Muskoka.
CTV reports that 35,000 households have left the GTA last year because the cost of housing is simply too expensive. The Missing Middle Initiative reported yesterday that Ontario's housing engine has stalled. In the GTA, pre-construction sales for condos are down 89%, and for ground-oriented homes, they're down 65%. That means starts have fallen off a cliff, and it means it's going to be worse in 2026. So my question, Mr. Speaker, is when the Prime Minister told young Canadians that they would have to sacrifice, was he really referring to the dream of home ownership?
Good question.
The Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, we obviously face challenges in Ontario and the GTA in particular around housing starts, and that's exactly why we've got Build Canada Homes launched. That's exactly why we're investing in affordable housing at an unprecedented scale. That's exactly why we brought forward the first-time home buyers GST tax cut, which the members opposite have stalled since June. Mr. Speaker, we need to take action. We are taking action on this House. The Conservatives are voting against action on affordable housing.
So true. Honourable Member for Parry Sound Muskoka.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's 4th housing bureaucracy, Build Canada Homes, replaces Justin Trudeau's life-changing national housing strategy with less money and even bigger promises. We need 480,000 homes per year in the next 10 years to restore affordability, but the Parliamentary Budget Officer reports Build Canada Homes will only build about 26,000 over the next 5. So why won't the Prime Minister listen to home builders, housing experts, the Leader of the Opposition, and axe the tax on all homes under $1.3 million?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, well, we've had a lot of engagement with the house building, the home building industry, with mayors, with ministers. We've done an enormous amount of effort. Members opposite can go out and talk to people in the community, home builders that we're working with, who are supporting Build Canada Homes. We've just launched and opened the portal for that. The Parliamentary Budget Officers, 87,000 homes will be built as part of this initial effort. And the National Housing Strategy starts again in these years ensuing. It's a combination that will deliver affordable housing at an unprecedented scale. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Terra Nova, the Peninsulas.
This Liberal government promised billions in housing spending, but today the Parliamentary Budget Office exposed that this program is exactly like the last 4, an absolute failure. This is just another example of these Liberals promising the same old things and never delivering. Their new housing program is only supposed to get 26,000 homes built in 5 years, only a fraction of the 2.5 million promised. How will this Prime Minister tell this horrible news to young people? Will he simply ask them to make more sacrifices?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's very important for me to point out that my colleague in the opposition from Newfoundland and Labrador has voted against every opportunity to help Canadians. Housing, food, school program, $10 a day childcare, dental care, on and on and on. This is nothing but a circle of tired notes. We need to work together. Canadians want us to work together, and I'll tell my colleague, Newfoundlanders and Labradorians want to see results.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Hill South.
You should be able to work hard, save your money, and buy a reasonably priced home in a reasonable timeline. That was the Canadian promise. But today, the Parliamentary Budget Watchdog confirmed this Liberal Prime Minister has broken that promise. The report says the Liberals' brand new housing bureaucracy is nothing more than a shiny billion-dollar photo op machine, building only 26,000 homes in 5 years. That's barely 2% of the 1.25 million homes promised. And worse, the report says this Liberal government has no plan whatsoever to achieve their own target. So instead of lecturing young Canadians about sacrifice, why don't this Liberal Prime Minister just admit that he bulldozed the dream of home ownership, buried it under bureaucracy, and walked away with a shovel?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
I was speaking very fast, so I couldn't keep up with the question, but I do want to say one thing. Canadians elected us to do big things, Mr. Speaker, and we are going to build a stronger economy, a stronger country. We're making the largest infrastructure investment in Canadian history. That party voted against it. We are going to be building roads and bridges, community centres, hospitals, and transit, Mr. Speaker, using Canadian steel and Canadian lumber. But the Conservatives voted against all of that, Mr. Speaker, every single part of it, against housing and against major projects. Opportunities for Canadian workers, Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House will keep building. We're going to be standing with our workers, unlike the Conservatives.
The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, this morning, housing networks in Quebec told me that they are very concerned. There is a great deal of demand for affordable housing, but instead we're getting more bureaucracy. The Parliamentary Budget Officer has also confirmed that the Liberal promise of 250,000 homes will only lead to 26,000. That's 10 times less. In my riding, the average price of housing has gone from $205,000 to $400,000 under this Liberal government. The Prime Minister said young people would have to make sacrifices. Perhaps he's asking them to sacrifice their dream of owning a home. Is that it? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. It's remarkable to hear a Conservative member talk about affordable housing. In all my years in politics, I've never heard a single housing organization praise the Conservative Party. On the contrary, they've always voted against investing in social and affordable housing. And that's when they're not actually criticizing the entire concept. On this side of the House, we've invested $13 billion to build affordable housing like never before. Thank you.
Member for Burnaby Central.
Mr. Speaker, victim groups, police chiefs, and police associations, provinces, territories, municipalities have all called for a quick passage of Bill C-14, the Bail and Sentencing Reform Act. And as the hate crimes continue to rise, communities across Canada are urging us to move forward on Bill C-9, the Combating Hate Act. Yet, instead of helping advance this important work, Conservatives have been filibustering the Justice Committee, blocking witnesses, and delaying progress. Can the minister update this House on the impact of these Conservative delays and what needs to happen so we can get this done for all Canadians?
Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, do you know who's paying the price for these Conservative games? It is Canadians.
That's right.
While victims groups and frontline police officers are asking for us to act urgently and respond to the crisis and the need of the time, the Conservatives are spending their time filibustering with nonsense speeches about cats and dogs, Mr. Speaker. That's right, you heard it right, cats and dogs. These are procedural stunts that they're playing in order to stop these bills from passing through committee, Mr. Speaker. They're obstructing the committee from doing its job. When it comes to public safety, Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives have a lot of bark, but no bite. Yeah, they are standing in the way.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday Algoma Steel laid off 1,000 workers, and those workers remember when the Liberal Prime Minister stood on their shop floor in Sault Ste. Marie just days before the last election and promised to protect their jobs. But today, those same workers face U.S. tariffs, no deal, and now no job. And to add insult to injury, this Liberal government just gave Algoma Steel $400 million with no jobs guarantees, apparently, because now there's 1,000 Canadian workers out of a job before Christmas. So when will the steel workers get the promised protection for their jobs from this Liberal government?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Of course, our thoughts are with the workers at Algoma Steel. I've been in contact with the company. I've been also in contact with the union. And obviously, we know that the entire business sector of the entire business model of the steel sector in Canada is based on U.S. automakers. And obviously, with unjustified and unjustifiable tariffs of 50% by the U.S. administration against our steel sectors, this can't happen. So we've been working with the company, offering $400 million to get through these difficult times as they're pivoting with new products and new markets, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals promised to protect Canadian jobs, and yet the reality is thousands of Canadian families are now going without their primary source of income because the Liberals haven't delivered on their promises. Softwood lumber mills are closing, auto companies are cancelling projects in Canada and moving them to the United States, and in Sault Ste. Marie, now 1,000 people have just lost their jobs at the steel mill. So workers don't need more Liberal platitudes or corporate handouts or broken promises. They need their jobs back. They need results. So when are Canadians going to get the trade deal we were promised?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, newsflash, we're in a trade war. And therefore, because of what is happening right now, we're fighting for the jobs at Algoma Steel and across the steel sector in the country. And that is why we've been there for the...
Okay. The minister may continue.
Mr. Speaker, is it from the top? From the top or not? Okay, so Mr. Speaker, my point is that we'll continue to fight for these jobs, and the company was clear today. If it wasn't for the $400 million and the $100 million by Ontario, the very existence of Algoma Steel would have been in jeopardy, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Edmonton, Griesbach.
Mr. Speaker, my condolences to the 1,000 workers laid off from Algoma Steel in my hometown of Sault Ste. Marie. My dad, Tony, worked at Algoma for over 30 years. The Prime Minister is squarely to blame for these layoffs. In the election, our elbows up PM said he was the guy who could get a good trade deal from Donald Trump. Instead of a deal, this PM said, who cares? And we saw higher tariffs on Canadian goods. The results? These layoffs and others. When will this Prime Minister finally get a deal with Trump?
Mr. Speaker, I have a lot of respect for my colleague and a lot of respect for his dad and all those who've worked or are working at Algoma Steel. And that's why our priority and my priority is to make sure that they can continue to earn a great salary at Algoma Steel as the company is adapting to new type of steel for the defense sector and also for the housing sector. And I must say that our Buy Canada policy is also helping Algoma and other steel plants as we'll continue to fight for these jobs across the country.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Échemins-Lévis.
You go, girl.
Mr. Speaker, it takes remarkable talent to somehow spend $15 billion and manage to create more unemployment. Food banks are struggling to keep up, but the Prime Minister prefers to hand out checks to multinationals, $15 billion to Stellantis, $400 million to Algoma. And what's the result? Job losses. Can the Prime Minister explain his genius strategy, which involves paying big businesses for them to lay off Canadians? Could you explain that, please? The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we are protecting the essential programs that Canadians depend on. We are protecting the Canada Child Benefit. We are protecting dental care. We are here to protect and to help families. And on the other side of the House, they are voting against all of those things. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Échemins-Lévis. I think the member didn't understand my question. Let me repeat. Canadians are struggling to put food on the table because of the cost of living, and yet the government keeps taking money out of their pockets and putting it in the pockets of big business. This Prime Minister managed to find $72 million for Nokia, $400 for Algoma, and $15 billion for Stellantis. And what is the government getting in exchange?
You
Job
guys
losses.
crack me up.
Is this the new Liberal strategy, making Canadians poorer to make big business richer? Is that it, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. On this side of the House, we believe it's essential to support the sectors impacted by the tariff war with the U.S. But my colleague voted against a tax cut that would represent $800 per family in Canada and Quebec. She voted against the National School Food Program that would save $800 per vulnerable family. She voted against the Canada Dental Care Plan, which would help at least 10,000 people in her own riding of Bellechasse. She voted against things like investments in the Davie shipyard, which is struggling to find the skilled workers it needs. I hope she will change her mind and vote in favor of these government programs.
Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, the Feed Ontario Hunger Report shows over 1 million Ontarians went to food banks 8.7 million times over the last year. That's the highest ever. While Canadians are struggling, this Liberal Prime Minister has handed over billions to big corporations with zero job guarantees. $400 million to Algoma, 1,000 jobs lost. $15 billion to Stellantis, 3,000 jobs gone. Why does this Prime Minister always make taxpayers pay for his sweetheart corporate deals while Canadians go hungry?
Secretary of State for Sport.
Mr. Speaker, those food security experts and poverty elimination companies, they do a great job advocating directly to government, and what they are saying is we need more affordable housing. In the last 2 weeks alone, Mr. Speaker, we've announced 857 new co-op housing. And that's really close to home for me, Mr. Speaker, because I'm proud to grow up in co-op housing. Unlike some of the Conservatives who like to call it Soviet-style housing or degrade affordable housing as shacks or something like that, Mr. Speaker, we're creating more jobs. We're creating opportunity for Canadians. And every single time we bring a motion forward in this House to provide that care to Canadians, whether it's through child care or dental care or affordable food in schools, Mr. Speaker, they vote against it.
The Honourable Member for Middlesex London.
Speaker, food banks are seeing record demand while this Prime Minister keeps shuffling taxpayer dollars at multinationals with zero job guarantees. At Cami, pink slips are hitting kitchen tables and it's just weeks before Christmas. Families across Middlesex London are losing their paychecks and they can't afford to buy groceries. The minister said that she'd get an update from GM, but it's been 40 days and she's got nothing. No plan, no transparency, no jobs. So why does this Prime Minister keep making Canadians pay the price for his financial incompetence?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Monsieur le Président, lorsque les conservateurs ont voté contre...
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives voted against Budget 2025. They voted against help for Canadians. They voted against the Guaranteed Income Supplement, rather. They voted against the New Horizons program for seniors. They voted against the tax credit for personal care workers. And they voted against dental care for millions of Canadian seniors.
The honourable member for Edmonton Northwest.
It's been 8 months since the Prime Minister was elected, claiming he would build nation-building projects at speeds not seen in generations. Now we've learned that he hasn't even started consultations. He could have started these within weeks of the last election, given the existential crisis that he claimed. The Prime Minister's incoming Heritage Minister said consultation should have begun yesterday, taking a shot at the Prime Minister, and that you can't do consultations on a desktop, taking another shot at the Natural Resources Minister, who said it could be done by Zoom. Has the Prime Minister avoided consultation with First Nations because he doesn't care about them, or because he doesn't want a pipeline built?
The Honourable Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our relationship with our partners, First Nations, Métis, Indigenous rights holders, is of utmost importance. With major projects, consultation and the duty to accommodate will be adhered to. There is no major projects before us right now. This is just an MOU. It is the process that is outlining the conditions to be met. Major projects will require the duty to consult. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Langley Township, Fraser Heights.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Liberal Keep It in the Ground caucus is saying that the MOU with Alberta is not a pipeline approval. There is no project, no route, certainly no consensus, and no private sector proponent. Now, they're conveniently hiding behind the tanker ban, which is preventing us from getting our resources to market, all the while American tankers are happily sailing right by from Alaska down to the lower 48. So, simple question, will the Prime Minister lift the tanker ban so that we can build a pipeline, or is this just a pipe dream?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, we are in a trade war. It's time to recognize that. Our agreement with Alberta is about a Team Canada plan to strengthen our hand and put Canada in a position to win that trade war. We're going to do it by growing exports beyond a single customer and driving down emissions with strong industrial carbon pricing and a commitment to major decarbonization projects in partnership with jurisdictions and in partnership with First Nations.
Honourable member for Fleetwood Port Kells.
Mr. Speaker, this past weekend,
Come on.
important discussions were held in Surrey,
He
British
just
Columbia
had a stroke.
on strengthening our law enforcement and intelligence agencies to combat extortion. Protecting Canadians has never been more critical. Yet, the Conservative play political games and stall measures like Bill C-2, preventing law enforcement from getting the key tools they need to protect Canadians. Can the Minister of Public Safety please outline the steps?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, let me thank the member from Fleetwood Port Kells for the very important question and his hard work. Mr. Speaker, we're taking real action to fight extortion. Last week we had a summit in Surrey, British Columbia that brought together the government of British Columbia. We brought together law enforcement, the extortion task force, as well as municipal leaders in order to ensure that we're all on the same page and we're fighting this fight together, Mr. Speaker. But unfortunately, the Conservatives continue to play games, Mr. Speaker. They're opposing critical bills that will strengthen law enforcement. So I urge the Conservative Party to come on board and support.
The honourable member for Saskatoon West.
Mr. Speaker, when the new Minister of Culture was Immigration Minister, he said, quote, "I don't see a world in which we lower immigration targets. Whether we revise them upwards or not is something that I have to look at, but certainly I don't think we will lower them," end quote. Then in 2024, he made history by allowing nearly 500,000 permanent residents into the country, the highest ever in a single year. Today, we're in a national housing crisis, emergency rooms are overflowing, and we're in a youth jobs crisis. Mr. Speaker, how does the current immigration minister feel about holding the bag for a Trudeau-era guy who just got promoted for making a big mess?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration. The Honourable Minister of Immigration. Okay, whoa, we're going to have to have to let some time go by here because everyone's getting very excited every time the Secretary of State gets up.
Frank.
The Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Oh my God.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm practicing my French.
The Saskatchewan Conservative Caucus. There was 14 of them elected over a period of 10 years. That's 140 collective years that we've had conservative representation from Saskatchewan, Mr. Speaker. And you tell me, what have they accomplished in those 10 years, Mr. Speaker? On housing, on trade, on infrastructure. They have accomplished nothing, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Quite the indictment when they don't even let the immigration minister answer a question about immigration. In a CBC interview back when he was the immigration minister,
I give the floor to the member for Calgary Nose Hill. The member for Calgary Nose Hill.
in a CBC interview back when he was immigration minister, the new Minister of Culture dismissed Premier's pleas for support for a flood of Liberal-enabled fraudulent asylum claims by saying, I think what they, the Premiers, are advancing is a complete crock of bleep. In reality, he oversaw billions of dollars going to house bogus asylum claimants while emergency room overflowed. So my question is this: if that failed immigration minister can get a promotion, does this mean that the current prime minister will promote the current one too?
The Honourable Minister for Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Speaker, thank you very much. Let me thank this colleague and this member for placing her confidence in me and in this government. Let me tell you one thing. Canadians elected this government with a big mandate. We have brought in a generational budget that includes a sustainable immigration plan, one that will deal with permanent immigration as well as the temporary immigration and bring our global talent. Why does that member and her party keep obstructing every single time? Get on board!
Again, through the chair. The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
I'm sorry, it's so bad. Okay, in all seriousness, in 2022, a Jamaican national was convicted in the United States of an aggravated felony of sexual abuse of a minor. But in 2023, the Liberals welcomed him to Canada. Worse, they allowed him to claim asylum, and today, that child sexual abuser is still in Canada. The Liberals voted against Conservative measures to prevent non-citizen child sexual abusers from entering Canada, abusing our immigration system, and avoiding deportation. Why are they protecting non-citizen child sexual abusers? Why didn't they support our policies?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has a robust system of inadmissibility that ensures
Come
that
on.
those who
Sit down,
were not
Gary.
eligible to be in here will be removed, Mr. Speaker. This year, we are on target to remove over 20,000 people who are ineligible to be here, including those with criminal offenses. But let me be very clear, Mr. Speaker. The party opposite, the sanctimony that they put forward on issues of public safety needs to be checked when they oppose the very tools that public safety officers need to do their job effectively, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Labrador.
Mr. Speaker, it's been 19 years since the First Nations Fiscal Management Act came into force, thanks to the leadership and determination of First Nations across Canada. Since then, the Act has evolved into a highly successful and robust system that supports First Nations with fiscal management, local taxation, and access to pooled borrowing. Can the Minister update this House on the important work underway to advance Indigenous economic prosperity? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Budget 2025 proposes important updates to the First Nations Fiscal Management Act that will enable the First Nations Finance Authority to lend to special purpose vehicles. For Indigenous communities, this makes it easier for multiple nations to work together, borrow as a group, and lower administrative costs. They also provide access to better borrowing rates and more opportunities to take equity in major projects and infrastructure. With improved access to financing, communities can create good jobs, grow local businesses, and build lasting prosperity for future generations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Poilievre. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's incredible that this member has become the new Minister of Official Languages. That member said again this morning that he's tired of doing something about the decline of French. But I have news. The new Conservative Party of Canada will be fighting for the rights of Francophones throughout the country. Even the Premier of Quebec said that it was a crying shame that that person has become Minister of Official Languages. Is the new Quebec lieutenant just as tired of fighting the decline of French, like his colleague at Heritage said? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture.
Come on.
Mr. Speaker, indeed, French is declining throughout Canada.
Goofball.
And what I am unhappy about is the hypocrisy of these conservatives.
Mark Miller's
who voted
weasel,
against
guys.
our plan for French with $4.1 billion to be spent throughout Canada to make French
Like a
stronger
rat.
in our country. When I was Minister of Immigration, I doubled Francophone immigration outside Quebec. The Conservatives voted against that, and they voted against the $4.1 billion plan. What is truly a shame is their hypocrisy.
Member for Nunavut.
Living downstream from the oil sands, the Mikisew First Nations have higher rates of cancer. Yet this government is developing regulations to allow affected water to be released into the Athabasca River. UNDRIP and their Environmental Racism Act must be implemented to protect the health of First Nations. How can the Liberals proceed with regulations knowing that Mikisew First Nations have not given consent because they are dying from cancer?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pollution from the oil sands tailings ponds is a serious issue, and we acknowledge and take seriously the concerns raised by nearby Indigenous communities in the region. We are currently supporting a study of health impacts on nearby communities, and there is a Crown Indigenous working group that is working on water release standards. We're committed to protecting Canada's environment and the health of communities, and of course the Indigenous communities nearby.
The Honourable Member for Kootenay, Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, our healthcare system is already stretched, yet the federal government piles on needless work. The College of Family Physicians warns that the disability tax credit form is worsening the strain and costing patients access to care. Instead of fixing it, Budget 2025 allocates $10 million to help people navigate the same broken system. Provinces already determine disability eligibility. Why won't the minister automatically accept provincial approval for the disability tax credit to reduce barriers and let family doctors focus on patient care?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Speaker, it's historic. For the first time in this country, we have a disability tax benefit, and I want to thank all parliamentarians that supported this. Unfortunately, again, the Conservatives voted against the very people they say they wish to help. But, Mr. Speaker, Budget 2025 actually goes a step further, and it compensates people for the burden, financial burden of filing, getting doctors' forms to file for their credit. And, Mr. Speaker, we will continue to work with people who are living with disabilities to make sure that they have every opportunity to thrive in Canadian society.
And that concludes question period today. It is my pleasure to lay before the House in both official languages the fourth edition of House of Commons Procedure and Practice, La procédure et les usagers de la Chambre des communes.
Well, there's another convoy.
As many honourable members know, the first three editions were respectively published in 2000, 2009.
Jim Kerr, who is one of the people involved in this protest. Welcome to Bridge City News, Jim. Great to have you.
Nice to see you.
Okay, what kind of protest is this exactly? When and where is it happening?
It is a grassroots protest, if I've ever seen one. And the answer to the next question, where and when it's happening, the 22nd is when it's happening. But where? I couldn't tell you. What's happening is that everybody's making their own posters. And they're going from a local city to a neighboring city. And they're doing it all over the country. So it's literally trying to keep up with all the locations.
Yeah, trying to keep up the locations is, probably a little challenging. Okay, so with that said, what is it that farmers are protesting about? What are the issues?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't pin it necessarily as the farmers being the core of who attends this. This is anybody who cares about our farms, anybody who ate breakfast this morning, anybody who understands how important it is that farmers are allowed to continue to do their business, as well as farmers. They'll also be included, I'm quite confident. Anybody who is concerned about government overreach right now, those are the ones that are going out on there's going to be slow rolls all over the place, but there's also going to be people gathering on overpasses and in public parks and just basically breaking bread with one another, employing some time together to discuss the issues and figure out what we're going to do about it.
Okay, well, since you said there's little pockets of these happening, I understand that there will be a convoy meeting in High River, Alberta at 10 a.m. Chances are you won't be there because you're in Ontario, right? So you're doing one in Ontario?
That's correct.
So the one in High River looks like it's heading right here to Lethbridge, gathering outside the Canadian Food Inspection Agency building. So one of the issues that sparked this is the CFIA cull order on the ostrich farm near Edgewood, British Columbia. So what changes are farmers looking for with the CFIA?
Primarily an outdated policy called a stamping out policy, which was employed about 23 years ago. And basically what it says is that if some of your herd or flock is sick, be it one or two, they're going to eliminate all of them. They say culling, I say killing. But what ended up happening was this family didn't want that. This family did not want to cull their birds. They have over 300 healthy ostriches. They ended up fighting the CFIA in court, took them to court as of January this year and just lost recently. And then the CFIA came in quite heavy-handed with heavy weaponry and ended up opening fire on over 300 ostriches, some of which were left struggling for life in the morning and were beheaded. And it was really just... It was a graphic thing, and we have all the photographs and everything. But the reason we had such a hard time getting the photographs is because the RCMP would not allow any drone footage. They put a no TAM zone over the entire area, so you couldn't fly over to see what's going on. They put up great big hay bales, and then they put up great big spotlights facing away from the hay bales onto the road, so that oncomers couldn't see what was happening. And this cull was absolutely disgusting. It got Canadians enraged, and we're talking across the spectrum. This is not red, blue political things. This is people who care about life and see these majestic animals just mowed down against the wishes of supporters that were there for them 8 months. I was on that property for 6 months, living on that property for 6 months and watched the day in, day out of the emotional and psychological terror that family was being put through because of a government agency employed by a world governance structure, which is another story.
Yeah. I know we had Katie on our show a few times, and it was really heartbreaking because she said that some of these birds have long lifelines, and a lot of them she grew up with. Some of them were over 20 years old. They all had names. She said they all had personalities. So it wasn't just like you say, mowing down a herd of birds. These were actually somebody's livelihood and their pets as well. And as she said, members of their family. So it was really sad. And one thing that we had heard.
You should do exercises. That's important to our good health. And friends, tomorrow we are going to be visiting with a fisherman who will tell us about his very enjoyable hobby. Now, I would like to see you all through our magic mirror. Romper bumper, stomper boo, tell me do. Magic mirror, please tell me today, did all of my friends have fun at play? I see all of my friends in Alberta. It's nice to see you. And I see Dan and Vivian. I see Marlon and Mona. I see Catherine and Harley. I see Anne and Elizabeth and Jane. I see Bert and Nicole, and I see you too. I hope to see you tomorrow, right here in Romp Room.
Ding dong, knock knock, hey daddy do. Bing bong, tick tock, bebop boom.
Kick off your weekend with exciting CFL action when the Edmonton Eskimos tackle the BC Lions in Vancouver. Tomorrow night at 10:30 on CFTO TV.
Ding